Hi everybody, thanks for tuning in. My name is EJ Quanabens, and I want to say thank you to the Native Canadian Centre for bringing me on board as your facilitator for the Regalia making component programming for the month of August. I know it was posted that there would be regalia making for both boys and girls, tiny tot traditional outfits. However, in the interest of time and given that there is a lot of topics that we need to go through and cover, time may not permit to do two particular styles in 5 weeks, given that we have 1 hour a week, which would equate to 5 hours during the month of August. So therefore, we've decided that we will be posting programs for the month of August that will cover solely girls' tiny tot regalia making. This will commence on August the 3rd and run through the end of the month, every Mondays between 11 a.m. and 12 p.m. The programming for the boys' traditional tiny tot regalia making segment will take place in September. Again, stay tuned for the specific dates and times for those ones. But moving forward, we've decided to just separate the two programs in the interest of time. So hopefully you're okay with that and be a little patient with us as we move forward. There are a number of topics that we need to cover. And before I get into that, I want to be able to give a brief introduction of who I am and where I come from. These are two questions that I oftentimes ask in my online programming and my online conversations that I hold. And it is the question of who are you and where do you come from? So in terms of who I am and where I come from, my name is EJ Quanabens. My Anishinaabe name is Anekegijik, and I come from the Northern Woodland Anishinaabe territory, approximately 21 hours northwest of the city of Toronto. It happens to fall under the territory of the Robinson Superior 1850 Treaty Territory. So it just gives you context of some of the practices and customs and belief of my people and how we view certain things as we continue in life moving forward with our daily practices. So, and I think it's important that we have that conversation because it really helps us understand how we design and how we create and infuse some of those teachings from the territories that we come from into our garments. The first topic that I have here that I wanted to talk about is about the history. Now, the history of traditional style dance for both male and female, but more of a specific emphasis on female because we are focusing on the tiny tot females in the month of August. It will have varying different teachings from varying different regions, from varying different nations. And so it's important that you have these conversations with the elders and knowledge keepers in your territories to get greater insight as to how things are viewed and practiced in the territory that you come from. And so I come from Northern Ontario, and so that is about the interior nations. And so our views of the woman's traditional style dance might differ from those of, say, the Plains or those of the southern nations in the United States, or even as simple as those in Southern Ontario. Our traditional outfits that were specific for women were inspired by, or influenced rather, by the Hudson's Bay Company during the times of the fur trading days. Yes, it's been a dark history as well in our history with regard to our interactions with the fur traders and the Hudson's Bay Company, but this is the time that was introduced to the fabric of Melton cloth. And these were the fabrics that were used in the female garments that we created in terms of our traditional wears for our women. And so the varying differences of that particular dance, that particular garment will differ from region to region. We didn't have fringes on our garments for our women. We didn't have beaded embellishments or shells on our garments. They were very simple and plain, partly because it was intended for using the garment during work projects. And then over the years, the dance started to evolve, or the outfit and the garment started to evolve into what we know of today, which is now used in powwows. Now, that interpretation will differ from region to region, nation to nation, and so it's important that we celebrate and we acknowledge the differences that exist within all of our nations, of how history and the beginnings of dance and the garments that were created then until now will differ. The second topic I want to talk about is colors. Colors is a very interesting conversation, and it's a very important conversation because it not only covers three categories, but there's also another piece that we need to talk about, which is about the significance of colors and the traditional meaning of colors that relate to the different nations of people within the different regions. And so that's a very important piece that we need to have a conversation about. But before we get into that, I want to talk about three categories. Your favorite colors, your spiritual colors. I call them just colors. That's how I was raised, but there's a term that's used now as spiritual colors, which is the same thing. And also color theory, or the color wheel. Now, I always encourage people who are creating garments, whether it's your first time or you're a seasoned sewer, that you should always incorporate your colors or your spiritual colors into your garment. It's a part of you. I mean, you are the physical embodiment of your essence of who you are. And so that should be a reflection that has been given to you through your colors, through the Creator. And so you should be able to infuse those colors into your outfit. Now, spiritual colors will come through dreams, or they may be given to you by certain individuals of your communities, being elders or knowledge keepers. Typically, they're given to you through dreams. And so those dreams and the interpretations of those dreams will differ. And so again, I ask you to have conversations with your knowledge keepers and your elders to seek that guidance and that information to understand what those colors mean and the significance behind that dream and how you can incorporate that into your garment. Another way of determining colors is your favorite colors. Favorite colors is a very important piece to acknowledge, because there's a reason why we gravitate towards certain colors, right? For example, myself, I love blues. I've always loved blues as a little boy going into my adult years, and blues is my #1 favorite color. All kinds of blues, and there's always meaning behind it. And so we have to understand that if we're going to select our favorite colors, that if these favorite colors work well with your skin tone, right? And so we'll have a little bit of a conversation about that and what that all means. The third way of determining color selection would be color theory. So if you don't have your dream colors, or if you don't want to use your favorite colors, and you don't really know how to create color selection and have them work together, then you can use the color theory or the color wheel, which you can Google online and learn that segment of what it means about colors. So in short, color theory or the color wheel is about your primary colors. There's 3 colors: red, yellow, and blue. Then you have your secondary colors. Then you have your tertiary colors. Then you have your complementary colors. Then you have your opposing colors. Then you get into non-hues, which are the blacks and the whites and the gradients of those non and white hues. So if you understand how colors work and how colors are created and how colors work with one another and don't work with one another, that should be able to give you enough knowledge and insight as to how to select your colors for your garment. Now, I want to speak a little bit about the significance of color. Now, colors will mean many different things to many different people from many different nations, depending on which region you come from. And I like to give the example, for example, in my territory of the Northern Woodland Anishinaabe people, our colors are typically green, yellow, red, and blue. And that is not to be confused with the 4 colors that we oftentimes see in the circular modality of the medicine wheel, which is the yellow, red, black, and white. No, our colors are very different, and they have specific meaning behind each of those colors within the region that I come from. And so it's important that you have conversations about what do colors mean and their significances that relate to the type of people that you come from. It's very important that you understand that. I have a lot of Cree cousins and Cree friends, and so in the swampy Cree territory, and some of the Plains Cree as well, their spiritual colors that exist in some of their selection is blue and red, and there's meaning behind that. So all I'm saying is that it's important that you have these conversations to understand the significance of color and how you could incorporate these colors into your garment that have even much more significance to the people that you belong to, right? So that's colors. And so I don't want to focus too much on that, but it is an important piece that you have to be mindful of when selecting colors. The other section I want to talk about briefly is on preliminary sketches of your design of your outfit. Now you'll notice behind me I have two samples. One sample is the blue one, and the second sample is the brown one, okay? Now, if we look at the blue one, for example, this is going to be these are both going to be the styles of outfits that we're going to be creating, the starter outfits. I call these the starter girls, tiny tots, regalia, traditional outfits. And these are very simple. They're one pieces that it consists of the sleeve pieces with neck facings, and they're nothing crazy fancy, but they do the trick. And so, this one here particularly is just a printed fabric with ribbons that create a decorative design with applique or embroidered butterfly decals that have an adhesive to it that we iron on, and then we just stitch the edging of it. And then I attach the same flow into the sleeves, okay? So that's the outfit that we're going to focus in on, as much like the brown one. The brown one is a brown printed fabric with black, yellow, and orange. Same concept, same shaping of the sleeves, same shaping of the dress. It's an A-line dress, and so that is an important piece that you have to understand. And so that gets me into my next conversation, which is understanding patterns. And so what I want us to do is have a conversation on pattern selection. And so what that requires you to do is to purchase a pattern from a fabric store. Some people oftentimes like to go to Fabricland, for example. You won't find patterns in the fabric district, because typically people who go to the fabric district create their own patterns. So if you want a pre-made pattern, you would have to go over to, say, a Fabricland or any fabric store that carries patterns. There are three types of patterns that you could focus in on. One is the Easy 1, 2, 3, or the Simplicity, or the Burdock. Stay away from the European patterns, because these ones are made with a little slightly smaller fit. You want to get a sundress that has sleeves that will typically be an A-line pattern. It don't matter about the size of it. We can always extend it so that makes it much larger, but know that you want an A-line pattern sundress, one-piece dress pattern. Okay. Try not to get a pattern that has the upper and the bottom pieces that you have to attach. Otherwise, we'll have to tape the patterns together to make one solid pattern, which is a solid one piece pattern rather. Because once you get into darts and pleats and puckers and frills, it gets a bit more complicated. So as you can see in this sample, these two samples, there are one pieces with no pleats, no darts, no puckers, or no frills. And the reason why I've selected this particular style is simply because you're going to be accessorizing it anyways with a belt, with beaded accessories or leggings, hair pieces and whatnot. So these are starter outfits. These are the basic foundation of the outfit, and it doesn't cost that much to create, but it is very effective and easy and durable and easy to clean and maintain. So this is what we're going to focus on during the month of August. Saying that, we're going to do a second segment of the other topics that we're going to be covering moving forward. So if there's any questions that you have that you would like me to ask, we're going to launch these videos on the Facebook page, the Native Canadian Center Facebook page, simply because, like I said, mentioned earlier, we deleted it by accident. And so all the comments and everything that was posted were removed in error. However, before it was deleted, there was the administrator was able to capture all the names, and so all your names are going to be entered into a draw that's going to be used to be given to a raffling of one of the garments that we're going to be creating at the end of this segment in August. So the goal is that we will focus in on creating a garment together. And then that garment that I create online for you will be raffled off, and all your names will be entered into a draw to see who wins that. Okay, so saying that, stay tuned for part 2, and we'll be uploading that one as well too. So thank you so much for joining, and we'll talk soon. Miigotch.